There are moments in life that feel small to you but thunder loudly in eternity. Today was one of those moments. When someone provoked you, misunderstood you, or tried to pull you into chaos, you did something extraordinary. You didn't react the way your pain wanted you to. You chose restraint. You chose grace. You chose silence over retaliation. And while it may have seemed like a minor decision, heaven recorded it as a victory. In a world addicted to reaction, you chose alignment. Most people don't realize that spiritual maturity isn't proven in loud declarations of faith but in quiet decisions of discipline. It's in the moment you want to send that angry message but delete it instead. It's in the instant you want to expose someone but choose dignity. That choice, that was strength, that was growth, that was transformation unfolding in real time. The truth is, emotional self-control is one of the rarest forms of power. Psychologists often call it delayed gratification, the ability to pause before acting on impulse. But spiritually, it is even deeper. It is the sign that your spirit is leading, not your ego. And today, you let your spirit lead. If this message is resonating with you already, take a moment to like this video and comment, "I chose growth." Let's see how many chosen ones are watching who understand that real power is quiet. Have you ever noticed how the hardest battles are invisible? What if heaven celebrates the moments no one else sees? What if today, you touched heaven simply by choosing love? You may feel unnoticed, unappreciated, overlooked, but there is something you must understand deeply. The spiritual realm operates differently than the physical one. People measure outcomes. God measures intention. People applaud visible success. Heaven celebrates internal obedience. Today, you did something that required courage. Maybe you forgave someone who never apologized. Maybe you kept working on your dream even though doubt whispered loudly. Maybe you resisted temptation when no one would have known. And because no one saw it, you might think it didn't matter. But it mattered immensely. Research in behavioral psychology shows that private integrity builds stronger character than public praise. When you act rightly without reward, your identity strengthens. And spiritually, that integrity becomes a fragrance that rises beyond the physical realm. It is said in many traditions that unseen acts of goodness carry the most weight. Imagine this: while you were questioning yourself, heaven was affirming you. While you wondered if you were doing enough, God was smiling at your effort. Not because you were perfect, but because you were sincere. You may not feel it yet, but something shifted today. Spiritual alignment works like gravity, invisible yet powerful. When you chose discipline over distraction, faith over fear, hope over despair, you altered your internal frequency. And that shift, it ripples outward. Think about it. Every action creates consequence. Physics teaches us that energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. Spiritually, obedience transforms chaos into order. When you align with divine guidance, doors begin repositioning quietly. Perhaps you turned down an opportunity that didn't feel right. Perhaps you decided to walk away from a toxic environment. That decision wasn't random. It was divine cooperation. You met heaven halfway, and heaven responded. Sometimes blessings don't appear immediately because they are being rearranged behind the scenes. Seeds don't break the soil the same day they're planted. But make no mistake, they are growing in darkness before they ever see light. Anyone can be kind when life is easy. Anyone can believe when evidence is obvious. But you chose discipline in a difficult moment, and that is rare. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't trend. It doesn't get applause. Waking up early to pray, staying committed to your health, refusing to gossip, choosing honesty when lying would benefit you. These are small acts that build spiritual muscle, and today you strengthened yours. Studies on habit formation reveal that repeated small disciplines reshape neural pathways. Over time, those choices become identity. Spiritually speaking, discipline turns intention into embodiment. You're not just wishing to be better, you're becoming better. And heaven delights in growth, not perfection, growth. The effort you made today matters more than the outcome you saw. You are evolving, even if the world hasn't caught up yet. Some cycles run through families, through relationships, through generations, patterns of anger, patterns of scarcity, patterns of self-sabotage. But today, something stopped with you. Maybe you refused to respond the way your upbringing conditioned you to. Maybe you didn't repeat the emotional habits you once learned. That's not coincidence. That's awareness. And awareness is the beginning of liberation. Breaking cycles feels uncomfortable because your nervous system is used to the familiar, even if the familiar is harmful. But growth requires discomfort. And today, you endured that discomfort without retreating. Generational change doesn't start loudly. It starts quietly in decisions like the one you made. You may not see the impact yet, but your future self will thank you. Your future family will benefit from it. There are wars no one sees, no applause, no witnesses, just you and the storm inside your mind. Today you fought one of those battles, and even though no one clapped for you, heaven stood in acknowledgement. Because the hardest wars are not against people, they are against impulses, fears, and old versions of yourself trying to reclaim control. Maybe anxiety whispered lies to you this morning. Maybe discouragement tried to convince you that your efforts were pointless. Maybe loneliness pressed heavily on your chest, but you did not surrender to it. You got up anyway. You prayed anyway. You kept moving anyway. That persistence, that quiet refusal to collapse, touched something eternal. Psychologists call this resilience, the capacity to recover from emotional strain. But spiritually, resilience is faith in motion. It is trusting that your suffering has purpose even when you cannot see it yet. And that kind of faith, it radiates. The world only celebrates visible achievements, but heaven celebrates endurance. The moment you chose not to quit, that was sacred. The second you whispered, "I'll keep going," even through tears, that was holy ground. Integrity is doing the right thing when it costs you something. And today, it did cost you. Maybe it cost you approval. Maybe it cost you comfort. Maybe it cost you a quick reward. But you protected your character instead. We live in a world that often rewards shortcuts, cutting corners, manipulating outcomes, saying what people want to hear. But you chose alignment over advantage. That decision might not pay immediately, but spiritually it compounds like interest. Studies in leadership psychology reveal that long-term trust is built through consistent integrity, not charisma. Charisma impresses for a moment. Integrity sustains influence for a lifetime. And heaven invests in sustainability. Imagine the spiritual weight of someone who can be trusted with power, with blessing, with expansion. Your integrity today wasn't just about the present, it was preparation. Because when bigger doors open, your character must be able to carry them. Would you still choose integrity if no one rewarded you? That's the question heaven asks. And today, your answer was yes. If you believe character matters more than clout, subscribe to Mirror of the Soul. We are building depth here, not just inspiration, but transformation. There was a time when certain habits ruled you, certain emotions dictated you, certain people manipulated your reactions, but today something was different. You paused, you thought, you chose differently. Addictions, whether to validation, attention, anger, or distraction, operate on neurological loops. They trigger dopamine cycles in the brain, creating patterns that feel automatic. But neuroscience also proves something powerful. Those loops can be broken. New pathways can be formed. Identity can shift. Spiritually, resisting temptation isn't just self-control, it's identity evolution. You are no longer who you used to be. The old version may knock on the door, but it doesn't live here anymore. And do you know what that means? It means growth is not theoretical in your life. It is practical, visible, real. Fear speaks first. It's fast, loud, urgent. It paints worst-case scenarios and convinces you to retreat. But faith speaks quietly. It whispers. It requires trust. Today, you listen to the whisper instead of the scream. Maybe you took a step toward your calling even though doubt was heavy. Maybe you applied for something you felt unqualified for. Maybe you confronted something you've been avoiding. That courage, that was faith overpowering fear. Research shows that courage is not the absence of fear, it is action despite fear. And spiritually, faith functions the same way. It does not erase uncertainty, it transcends it. Heaven delights in movement, in effort, in steps taken despite trembling hands. You didn't need certainty, you needed willingness, and you had it. Let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you trusted faith more than fear every day? Reflect on that. And if you're ready to walk by faith boldly, comment "faith over fear" right now. Many people think they have to impress God, be perfect, never fail, never struggle, but that is performance-based thinking, and heaven doesn't operate that way. Today, maybe you didn't do everything flawlessly. Maybe you stumbled. Maybe you felt weak at some point, but you kept your heart aligned. You returned to humility. You chose sincerity over pride. Across spiritual traditions, the heart is seen as the center of intention. Actions matter, but the motive behind them carries deeper weight. You acted from a place of growth today, not ego. That shift is everything. Perfection creates pressure. Alignment creates peace. And God is not measuring you against someone else's journey. He is looking at your direction, not your speed. Are you growing? Are you trying? Are you returning when you fall? If the answer is yes, heaven is pleased. Before we move to the next part, take a breath. Place your hand on your heart. Feel that. You're still evolving, still chosen, still guided. There are doors in life that do not open immediately, they unlock quietly. And today, without realizing it, you turned a key. Not with noise, not with applause, but with obedience. Sometimes the breakthrough doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like consistency. It looks like choosing patience when you want to rush. It looks like declining what is almost right because you trust something better is ahead. That restraint you practiced today, it activated timing. In behavioral science, there's something called the compound effect. Small, consistent actions create massive long-term outcomes. Spiritually, obedience works the same way. The seed doesn't argue with the soil. It simply grows in hidden places until its time comes. You may not see the door yet, but what you did today positioned you for it. The interview you haven't been called for, the opportunity you haven't heard about, the connection you haven't met yet. Your alignment today made room for it. One of the most powerful truths is this: not every blessing looks like gain. Some blessings look like prevention. Maybe something didn't work out today. Maybe a plan fell through. Maybe a conversation didn't happen. You may have felt disappointed, but what if that was protection? There are countless stories of people missing flights that later crashed, turning down deals that later collapsed, ending relationships that later revealed hidden harm. We often thank God for what we receive, rarely for what we are spared from. Spiritual protection doesn't always announce itself. It redirects quietly. And today, something may have been redirected in your favor without you even realizing it. Imagine the gratitude you would feel if you could see the dangers you were shielded from. Would you complain less? Would you trust more? Growth doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels subtle, like you're just slightly calmer than you used to be, slightly wiser, slightly slower to anger, but slight shifts create massive transformation over time. Think about who you were 1 year ago. The triggers, the fears, the habits. Now look at yourself honestly. You've evolved, maybe not perfectly, but undeniably. Neurologists explain that the brain physically rewires itself through repeated behavior. Spiritually, this mirrors renewal of the mind. You are not just thinking differently, you are becoming different. And that evolution carries spiritual weight. Responsibility expands with growth. Influence expands with maturity. Heaven delights in transformation because transformation makes you trustworthy. Before elevation comes preparation. Before blessing comes refinement. Today wasn't random, it was training. Every moment of discipline, every decision of integrity, every act of faith, training. When athletes prepare for competition, the hardest work happens in private. No crowd, no spotlight, just repetition. Spiritually, your life works the same way. You are being prepared for something bigger than your current perspective. Responsibility requires capacity, and capacity is built through small, consistent obedience. Today, you stretched your capacity. You carried yourself differently. You responded differently. That is preparation in motion. If greater responsibility is coming, are you ready for it? Would you handle abundance differently than you handled scarcity? These are questions worth sitting with. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself 5 years from now, stronger, wiser, more stable, more fulfilled. That future version of you exists in potential right now. And today, you made a decision that helped them. Maybe it was choosing discipline over distraction. Maybe it was investing in your healing instead of ignoring it. Maybe it was choosing self-respect over temporary validation. Those choices compound. Research on long-term goal achievement shows that people who align daily habits with future identity are more likely to succeed. Spiritually, this is vision anchored in action. You acted like who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Your future self is grateful. Your future family is grateful. Your future peace is grateful. So let me ask you something powerful. What kind of person are you becoming? Write it in the comments. Declare your future identity. And if this message is speaking to your journey, share it with someone walking through transformation. We are building something deeper here on Mirror of the Soul. Many people chase miracles. They want dramatic signs, sudden breakthroughs, instant transformation. But heaven is not impressed by emotional spikes, it honors steady obedience. Miracles are moments, consistency is character. Today wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but it was steady. You showed up again, you prayed again, you tried again. Even if no one noticed, heaven did, because the person who shows up daily becomes unstoppable over time. Psychologists call this the power of repetition. Small actions done consistently rewire identity. Spiritually, consistency builds trust between you and God. It proves you are reliable, not just emotional. Let me ask you something honest. Are you chasing excitement or are you building endurance? Because endurance is what carries destiny. There used to be a voice inside you that was louder, the voice of doubt, of insecurity, of self-sabotage. And maybe today, for the first time in a long time, it didn't win. That matters. Inner dialogue shapes destiny. Cognitive psychology confirms that the stories we tell ourselves influence our behavior. If you believe you're incapable, you act small. If you believe you're growing, you act brave. Today, you shifted your internal narrative. Maybe you told yourself, I can handle this. Maybe you chose not to spiral into overthinking. Maybe you interrupted negative self-talk with faith. That interruption is power. Heaven delights when you speak life over yourself instead of destruction, because your words shape your future. Your thoughts build your reality. What voice are you choosing to strengthen? The one that limits you or the one that believes in you? Write your answer below. Let's make this comment section a declaration zone. Pride is loud. It demands recognition. It defends itself constantly. Humility, however, is quiet strength. Today, maybe you apologized first. Maybe you admitted you were wrong. Maybe you listened instead of proving your point. That humility, it carried more power than winning the argument ever would have. Leadership studies show that humble individuals build stronger long-term relationships. They create safety, trust, influence. Spiritually, humility opens doors pride keeps locked. There is something magnetic about someone secure enough to lower their ego. It disarms conflict. It invites grace. And heaven is deeply pleased by a teachable spirit. Ask yourself, would you rather be right or be righteous? There is a difference. If you're choosing humility as strength, press like. And share this with someone who needs to hear that lowering your ego doesn't lower your value. Let's clear something up. God is not waiting for you to become flawless before He is pleased. Divine delight is not about perfect performance, it's about consistent direction. Imagine a child learning to walk. They stumble, they fall, but the parent doesn't get angry. The parent smiles at the effort. That's what growth looks like spiritually. Today you may have stumbled in small ways, but your direction remained aligned. You kept trying. You kept choosing better. You kept returning when you drifted. That direction matters more than temporary missteps. Many people quit because they believe one mistake cancels their progress. But growth is not linear. It's layered. And heaven celebrates the trajectory of your heart. Are you walking forward, even if slowly? Then you are succeeding. This is the truth that ties everything together. You touched heaven today not because you were extraordinary, but because you were authentic. Because you chose growth over ego, faith over fear, discipline over impulse, integrity over shortcuts. And that alignment is sacred. Heaven delights when a soul awakens to its higher nature, when a person chooses light in a dark moment, when someone who could react harshly responds gently instead. That is divine reflection. You are becoming who you were always meant to be, not instantly, not magically, but intentionally. So here's my final question for you. If you continue making choices like the one you made today, where will you be 1 year from now? Take that seriously. If this message confirmed something in your spirit, share it. Someone needs to hear that their quiet obedience matters. Like this video so more chosen ones can find it. And subscribe to Mirror of the Soul, where we don't just talk about awakening, we live it. Before you go, comment this. I touched heaven through growth. Let this not just be a video. Let it be a turning point.